Hello dear children. Today we are going to study the concept of solid waste. Solid waste can be categorized into different types. Let's begin with the first one. Classification of solid waste based on sources. So where we are getting the solid waste, based on that it is classified. First is domestic waste. Domestic waste include the waste food, paper, plastic bags, vegetable waste, fruit skin, glass and sheet metal articles. Second is industrial waste. Industrial waste includes the chemicals, pigments, sludge, ash, metals. Hazardous waste includes chemicals generated in various industries, radioactive materials, explosives, infectious materials, etc. Fourth is farm or garden waste. Includes leaves, flowers, branches of trees, crop residues like straw, animal urine, dung, pesticides, remains of various chemicals and fertilizers. Electronic waste includes non-functional TV sets, cell phones, music system, computers, keyboard, mouse, etc. Biomedical waste includes bandages, dressings, gloves, needles, saline bottles, medicine bottles, test tubes, body parts, blood, etc. Urban waste includes waste generated through household industries and large commercial and industrial establishments. Carry bags, glass, metal piece, rods, thread, rubber, paper, cans from shops, vegetables and so on. Radioactive waste like strontium-10, cerium-141, barium-140 and heavy water generated from atomic energy plant. Waste is classified on the basis of their degradation into two categories: biodegradable waste and non-biodegradable waste. Biodegradable waste degraded easily with the help of microbes. It mainly includes kitchen waste, spoiled food, fruits, vegetables, ash, oil, dung, parts of the plants, etc. This waste is mainly of organic type. That's why it is also called wet solid waste or wet garbage. Second category is non-biodegradable waste. This type of waste is not easily degraded by microorganisms. That's why it is called non-biodegradable waste. It requires a very long period of time to degrade and use of various techniques. It includes plastic, metals and similar other materials. This type of waste is also called dry solid waste or dry garbage. Harmful effects of solid waste. Due to the mismanagement of solid waste, it affects on our health. Number of diseases is spread out due to the solid waste. Solid waste is responsible to create the air pollution. Solid waste is responsible to create the water pollution. Solid waste is responsible to create the soil pollution, production of toxic gases, bad odor, degradation of natural beauty. These all are the harmful effect of solid waste. Necessity of solid waste management. What is the need to manage the solid waste? Now we studied already the harmful effect of solid waste. That's why it's very important to manage the solid waste. For preventing environmental pollution and to keep the surrounding clean, it is very important to manage the solid waste. For energy as well as fertilizer production, through that to generate work and employment opportunities. To reduce this strain on natural resources through treatment of solid waste and to improve the health and quality of life and to maintain environmental balance. That's why it's very important to manage the solid waste with the help of scientific and eco-friendly waste management system. For example, composting, safe landfill sites, vermicomposting, industrial solid waste management, pyrolysis, biomedical waste management, also called incineration. Hello dear children. Now let's begin with the 7 principles of solid waste management. Reuse, refuse, recycle, rethink, reduce, research, regulation and public awareness. Let's begin the first one. Reuse. After used materials should be reused for some other purposes. It is said to be the reuse. Refuse, refusal to use articles made from non-degradable articles like plastic and thermocol. Recycle, production of useful articles by recycling solid waste. For example, paper and glass can be recycled. Rethink, rethinking our habits, activities and their consequences in connection with the use of various articles of daily use. Reduce, restriction the use of resources to avoid their wastage. Old materials should be reused. One thing should be shared by many. Use and throw type of objects should be avoided. Research, conducting research related to reuse of materials that are temporarily out of use. Regulation and public awareness. Following the rules and laws related to waste management and motivating others to do the same. America is the largest production of electricity from solid waste. Japan has developed the projects of threads, papers and other useful materials from banana peels. Period required for degradation of waste. If the time required for degradation of the solid waste generated around us is long, it seriously affects other environmental factors. Here I am showing you some method of storing waste and use of a specific dustbin as per the type of waste. Think about how such eco-friendly waste management can be achieved by following these methods in our homes too. Today we are going to learn about disaster management. There are 2 types of disasters: natural disasters and artificial disasters. Natural disasters like lightning, floods, fire and man-made or artificial disasters like accidents, bomb explosions, accidents in chemical industries, etc. occur around us time to time. They cause large-scale damage to life and properties. That's why it's very important to manage the disaster. Disaster management is action implemented through proper planning, organized activities, and coordination. It includes prevention of losses and danger, improving tolerance, providing relief from disaster, minimizing the intensity and extent of harm. Disaster management include the preparation to face the disaster. It also include the immediate action in the disaster situation. It includes assessment of damages and intensity of the disaster, rehabilitation and rebuilding. These all are the disaster management planning we should do. How to give first aid to disaster victim? Let's begin. The main objective of first aid is prevention of death, preventing deterioration of health, and starting the process of rehabilitation. It is very important to know that the emergency measures or first aid practices. Let's begin the basic principle of first aid. Nothing but ABC. A stand for airway, B stand for breathing, and C stand for circulation. Airway: if the victim has difficulty to breathe, the head should be held in the backward sloping position, or the chin should be raised so that the respiratory passage remains open. This is the first aid for the airways. If the patient has the difficulty to breathe, how to give first aid in this condition? The victim should be given artificial ventilation by mouth-to-mouth respiration. Third, circulation. If the victim is unconscious, then after giving mouth-to-mouth respiration twice, the heart should be pressed down hard by pressing the chest with both the palms. These two actions should be repeated alternatively after 15 times. This is called cardiopulmonary resuscitation, CPR. It helps to bring circulation back to normal. Now let's see the bleeding. So if the victim is injured and bleeding through the wound, then the wound should be covered with an antiseptic pad and pressure applied on it for 5 minutes with either thumb or palm. Fracture. How will you give first aid to the fractured victim? If any bone is fractured, it is essential that the fractured part be immobilized. It can be done with the help of any available wooden rods, rulers. If there is an impact on the back or vertebral column, the patient should be kept immobile on a stretcher. Now, if there is a burning cases, how will you do the first aid? If victims have burn injuries, it is beneficial to hold the injured part and a clean and cold flowing water for at least 10 minutes. These are the first steps for different injuries. So different injuries have different first steps. For injuries like twisting, contusion, sprains, in these all cases, rice remedy should be applied. Rice is nothing but rest, ice, compression and elevate. Rest allows the victim to sit in a relaxed position. Apply an ice pack to the injured part. After the ice pack treatment, the injured part should be massaged gently. The injured part should be kept in a raised or elevated position. How to transport the victim or patient? Many methods we can use to transport the victim. For example, cradle method, carrying piggyback method. Let's begin the first cradle method. Cradle method is useful for children and underweight victims. Carrying piggyback is useful for carrying patients who are unconscious. Human crutch method. If one of the legs is injured, the victim should be supported with minimum load on the other leg. Pulling or lifting method. This is used for carrying an unconscious patient through a short distance. Carrying on two-hand chair method. This is useful for those patients who cannot use their hands but can hold their body upright. Carrying four-hand chair method. This method is useful when support is needed for the part below the waist. Stretcher method. In any emergency, if a conventional stretcher is not available, then a temporary stretcher can be made using bamboos and blanket. Boats are also used by the civil administration to rescue people trapped in a flooded area. As an emergency measure, wooden boats, bamboo floats, air-filled rubber tube from a tire can be used to advantage. A fire extinguisher is a portable appliance that can be easily carried anywhere. Various appliances are used to put out a fire